thought these little bugs would be gone because it was cooler out.
That's not working out yet.
I guess not.
Okay.
Well, welcome to Elk Camp
Hey,
2020.
here we are.
It's been a journey.
It has. And that journey started at least 9 months ago.
Yeah, for this one.
Yeah, at least, because Arizona is a draw state, so we have to apply in the draw process to get an elk tag. So, and you accumulate points when you don't get drawn, so the more points you have, the better odds you have on getting drawn. I did not have a lot of points. I don't remember how many Ken had, but not a lot.
2 or 3.
And I just felt like if I was going to get an opportunity to go elk hunting while I was at a point to enjoy it and be able to do it, this would be a good year to do it. And so my odds were better on a cow tag than a bull tag, so I put in for a cow tag for Unit 1, and here we are in Unit 1. It's a beautiful spot, beautiful area. The scenery is fantastic, the mountains and the pines and the meadows, and it's just gorgeous.
The weather has been great so far. We couldn't really ask for anything better. It's just been wonderful being here, just enjoying it just for what it is besides the hunt.
Yeah, I mean, you could come here and relax and just camp and really enjoy and appreciate where we're at.
Yeah.
We talked a lot through this process about what our plans would be, how we were going to organize our camping trip. Once we knew I got drawn, then it was, okay, how does this play out? How are we going to make this happen?
Who's bringing what? When are we planning on meeting up? How are we going to do this? What other kinds of things are we forgetting?
Yep.
A lot of coordination, and we got there.
And honestly, a big shout out to my wife Laura for allowing me to do this and taking extended time away from home and participate in this elk hunt. So she knows that it means a lot to me, and I appreciate her support. We are in public land, the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest, and you're going to hear a four-wheeler every once in a while go by, and we'll wave at them as they pass by, but that's public land.
And the fact that we're able to do all this on public land is great for us, and just more to the benefit of what we're capable of doing to be able to make this hunt happen.
And you and I, how would we afford elk ground?
No.
To be able to afford to buy ground that we could go hunt elk on. Here we are in the beneficiaries of the public lands. So we're appreciating it very much so. Having a cookie in the process. So I left on Tuesday the 8th, started off about 4 o'clock in the morning, headed south, made it to Santa Rosa, New Mexico, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, stayed over there, got up the next morning about 3 o'clock, hit the road again, about 4, made it here about 9 or so on Wednesday the 9th. So not bad time.
Yeah, coming from Iowa, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and got here a little bit ahead of Ken. He had to come from Phoenix, so.
Yeah. Not quite as far, but I still had to wait to be able to drop my dog off to get him boarded, and then I hit the road, got up here, probably got here right around noon, and then picked our spot, got camp set up, started to put together what we wanted to do for the rest of the day. And
you know, the good sign for me was I pulled into camp and I knew Ken wasn't going to be here for a while, so I wasn't going to start setting stuff up till we both agreed on where we were going to set up and get things organized. So I took a walk and a wander and hung out here at camp, and basically where our camp setup is, I watched a bull and a cow elk walk right through where our camp was set up, and to me that was a great way to start the
can't ask for much better than that.
No. And we've been working at this for a few years to get to this point.
Yeah, you started in 2016 for a solo elk hunt, right?
Yep. In this unit. So, and camp just down the road a ways from here.
And then later that year, he sent me a message wondering if I wanted to go for an elk hunt. So the following year, we applied. I got drawn for a cow elk in a different unit. We went. We learned a lot. Had a great time. Didn't fill my tag, but it was definitely great. We knew we wanted to do this again.
Yeah, we learned some stuff each time we've done this. We keep learning, and Ken has been doing some scouting in this area as well to help us out and get a feel for where the animals are. and their travel patterns. And Rick, of course, has been a invaluable source of information, insight, and elk knowledge for us to help us pull things together.
Yeah, and we appreciate everybody who's been able to help us out, give us tips and hints just to try and make it happen, and all that we've done to try and learn and be better prepared so that when the time came we could be successful.
Yeah, that is always the goal. It's a great experience to be here and hunt. It's a great experience to come and camp here and hang out. But ultimately, the goal is to get out hunting and come home with something as a result.
Absolutely. So the real game plan started on the 9th when we got here. We did some scouting, hung some trail cameras, did some wandering around, saw some more elk again, and got real excited because we could hear bugles and we knew there were elk around, and we felt like we were in a good spot, and we just knew, it's going to happen. We just have to put in the time.
The funny thing is, it felt like we wouldn't have had to leave camp to see elk, because as we were hanging around this area, setting up, going out, coming back, that kind of thing, we were seeing elk cross the path just
100, 150 yards away.
Yeah. So again, to me, that was a good sign that we were in a good spot, and then it's like, well, do we actually go anywhere but outside of camp?
Well, we decided it would be important to keep scouting, keep looking around, and we did. And on the following day, the 10th, we did some more searching, and we found an area that had some fresh sign, looked very promising. It was in a little meadow. We looked around, found a way we could have ourselves a good setup, set up a game plan. We built a little blind and got ready for the next day.
Yeah, and by blind, it's basically a deadfall log with a few branches to break you up around it. So just using what's in nature to create a place to hide and break up your silhouette so you're not quite so visible.
Yeah.
And a nice little meadow, just kind of a long, narrow meadow, and we could see that the elk were traveling both parallel and around it as well as through it. And so it just felt right.
Yeah, it looked promising.
It did. From looking at the sign, reading the sign, watching what you could see from fresh tracks and travel patterns, felt like a good spot to be.
So that was our game plan for the opening morning. We were going to get out there dark and early and be ready to go.
Yeah, pre-crack of dawn.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
We got up at what, 3 or 3:30?
3:30, I think it was. Yeah.
And after getting ready, having something warm to drink, and hitting the trail, we settled in about 4:45.
Yeah, but let's back up the train just a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
Well, we talked about our communication.
How we were
gonna. Ken and I are gonna set up on this spot separately from each other. We're not gonna sit side by side.
Nope.
I'm gonna sit in the blind at the edge of the meadow. Ken's gonna sit back uphill from me a little bit.
Yep.
Ken's gonna be the caller, and I'm gonna be the hunter in this. And so Ken's got my back. Ken's the one that I'm depending on to pull animals in. Basically.
No pressure.
No pressure. So we thought it was kind of important to figure out how we were gonna communicate without yelling at each other.
Yeah, much better to figure that ahead of time than in the moment.
Yeah. So our plan was communicating about his calling and when he was going to call, if I needed him to call. If I needed him to call, I'm going to give him one quick call on the calf call. If I need him to just stop calling, then it's 3 quick calls on the calf call. So we came up with that system. We had sign language figured out before this, but he wasn't going to be within view, so we went with the call to communicate with.
And I just kept on waiting, hoping that it would come sooner or later. It was dark when we got there.
Yeah, what did you say, 4:45?
About 4:45. Heard a few bugles here and there, kind of in the woods ahead of us, and sat there as the light slowly filtered in, and the rest of the woods started waking up with the squirrels and the birds and whatever else.
Yeah, and before that, we had 2 saw-whet owls that were calling right overhead of both of us.
They had to be right above me.
Which was fun to hear. A lot of hunting is also appreciating the other things around you other than what you're pursuing.
Yeah, not so much the squirrels.
Well, they're annoying.
They were pretty obnoxious.
They're just annoying.
But it was probably about 6:30, 6:45, and we both started getting a little bit antsy. and getting kind of stiff and wondering what was going to happen because we hadn't really seen anything come through or heard anything come close. It was already light out, and I was starting to wonder where the hunt was going to go.
Well, yeah, and we could hear bugles from the bulls in the distance. And there, at a certain point, it felt like we had a bull coming our direction.
Yep.
And then it's like he hung up and wasn't going to come any closer.
Turned around and went back.
It just wasn't going to happen. And Ken was doing a good job of calling, doing cow calls to try and get the elk's attention. Got the elk's attention, but just we didn't close the deal on that one.
No.
You know, he probably had cows with him that he said, basically said, I'm not leaving these cows for you. I don't.
I already got them. I'm not going for more.
Yep. And about 10 to 7, I remember, because I'm looking at my watch going, what time is it? It's 10 to 7, and my fingers are getting cold. We had frost on the tents when we got up in the morning. It was chilly.
It was chilly.
So sitting there still for a few hours, I was getting chilled in the hands. And going, well, am I going to text Ken and tell him I just got to walk around a little bit and get my circulation back? But I held off, and then I got a text from Ken that he needed to get up and stretch.
Yep. So
which I was like, I understand that.
I stood up, started moving around, and all of a sudden I hear one calf call coming from Chip. And not being prepared, I had to scramble, fumble for my call, try and get ready. And I start calling.
And I'm going there, what? He's not responding. What's going on?
And as I'm calling, I can see a couple of elk bodies running through the woods kind of away from us, out of his range. And I couldn't tell what they were, so I waited a little bit, and Chip texted me and told me what he saw.
Yeah, we had a bull and about at least 4 cows go through, and if I'm sitting facing the meadow, they were kind of quartering away off to my right, probably 75 yards away, I would say, because we had the distance marked to the edge of the meadow from the stand as to where things were.
So, I mean, from my point then, it was like, all right, well, these just came through. Is anything else going to come through? I'm wondering. I'm still standing there, and all of a sudden I hear another calf call from Chip. I'm like, what's going on now?
Yeah, and after those first elk went through, I'm sitting there going, okay, that was cool. And then I see some movement back in the woods straight across from me, and I saw a cow and a calf elk. It looked like they were catching up and trying to catch up to those other elk. And I'm going, man, I wish we could sidetrack them. So I give a quick calf call to get Ken's attention, of course, again. And then before I hear him go again, I hit another quick one, just because she stopped. The cow stopped, and well, that's a good sign. She stopped. She's not just following those others. The cow and the calf stopped, so I hit it again, and she perked up. And then Ken kicked in.
Yep. I gave a couple of calls, couple of cow, couple of calf calls, kind of talking to each other. And from my vantage point, standing up, I happened to look out in the meadow, and I could see them walking into the meadow. And from where I was, they were already broadside to Chip. And I was so excited because I'm like, this is about to happen.
And from my vantage point, when she stepped out of the meadow coming towards me, she was coming straight on. She stepped out first and right at the edge of the woods and was just straight on. And I'm going, well, this doesn't work. What's going to happen here? And so waited a little bit, what felt like a long time. And finally, she decided to turn and come into the meadow and give me a broadside opportunity.
I tried to give a call at the right time when I saw her, and it looked like she stopped, and I heard the snap of a bowstring and the thwack of an arrow, and I just about started jumping up and down and ran down to Chip.
So I'm looking at her coming out on the meadow. Where she came out onto the meadow, I had a tree marked at 36 yards. So I knew the distance where she stepped out. And when she came in, I thought as she angled this direction to my left, that she angled towards me and the yardage shortened, right? So when I was figuring distance, when I was picking my aiming point, I figured less than 36. And that was the one thing that didn't go quite right in this setup. was that I miscalculated mentally on the distance. She was a little bit further. She actually moved parallel at the 36 yards basically to me instead of moving closer to me. And so I underestimated the distance that she was standing at, and my arrow hit kind of low. So when I shot, I watched the arrow trajectory, and then as it got closer, it dipped a bit. And I'm going, oh no. And so when I shoot, I typically go to worst case scenario first, right? And I want everything to be perfect, and it didn't feel perfect. So we stopped. Ken came out to meet me. After the elk left. He heard the thwack. The elk left the area, and then he came over to meet me.
And from my vantage point, it sounded like a decent hit. She looked like she got hit good because she bolted hard. And then I saw her run off into the woods. I came down to Chip just to see how he was and decide how we needed to proceed there. And I think we went up to where she was, found where the tracks were. We didn't see an arrow stuck into a tree or laying on the ground or anything anywhere. And at that point, rather than push in on such a large animal, we decided to take a pause and come back to camp.
Yeah, you know, not finding the arrow, I felt for me was a good sign. It meant that the arrow, I heard the thwack, but you know, in my mind, I'm going, again, worst case scenario. Did it go under and hit a log? Was that what I heard? I knew it wasn't what I heard, but your brain goes to, okay, what could go wrong here? Because I really want this to happen. I want it so bad I can taste it. So not finding the arrow was good in my mind, but we're not picking up blood right away. But we also know that elk have a huge cavity, so they may not start showing a blood trail right from the get-go.
And it's a big animal, so even if they start a blood trail, it's a lot of volume to follow if they start bleeding real good.
So we come back to camp because we needed to hike some more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we needed to just take a break, let the nerves settle a little bit. We grabbed a little bite to eat, and then we checked our packs, made sure we had everything we needed, and headed back out to the site to pick up the trail.
Yep, went in and we found a lot of scuff marks. You could see where she made the turn and took off into the woods. So it took us a little while to pick up blood.
Yeah, but at the beginning, she's moving so fast, it might take a little while, and we started finding some blood, and then we found your arrow.
Then we found the arrow, and it was blood from tip to tail on the arrow, all the way through.
And we started feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah. Not cocky, but good.
Yes. Continued on the trail, started following blood, and it was fairly regular. It was pretty, I mean, easy
enough
to follow.
Where you could go see the trail and keep following it.
And went forward. I don't know how far it was, and then we found a spot where it looked like she laid down and bled a little bit. And that's where the first set of confusion came.
Yeah.
It was hard to see which way she went from there.
Yeah. Yep, it's like the fur might have clotted up when she laid down, and so we didn't have a good blood trail from that point any particular direction. So we spent a lot of time just doing a quad search kind of that area, looking for going back and forth.
And eventually Chip found a little bit of blood, and it looks like she had turned around and backtracked the way she came. So we followed that, not very far, maybe 20 yards or so.
And hit another dead end.
Yeah, crawling hands and knees, we couldn't find anything else.
Nope.
And we decided at that point the best thing was just pick up a grid search, just start covering the area around there, see if we can either find blood or any other sign of where she might have gone.
Yeah, so we took a bit of a break again, did some grid search, took a break and say, okay, let's stop, pause, make sure we're hydrated, make sure we're ready for this, and then where are we going to search, where is this animal going to go? And feeling like the animal was under stress from this, and significant from watching the pattern of her travel, that we felt this animal was not going to go, she wasn't going to go uphill. That was going to be too much work, too much stress on her system.
Downhill it seemed to be.
Yep. That seemed to be our best bet. So then we set up a quad search from towards camp, up towards the area, up towards the meadow,
Yep.
and say, okay, this is our downhill area. Let's search this.
Yep. Some spots we hadn't looked at yet. And I mean, for me personally, I was starting to get rather concerned that either it wasn't a very good shot and she was still running, or she could have gone any different direction. We may never know.
Yeah, yep. You knew we had several conversations about we need to get lucky here somewhere, you know, and part of it really, you know, that we may have said that, but part of it was putting the work in.
Yes.
And the time in, and the leg work, because we
covered miles through some rough stuff.
Just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, saying if we can't pick up the sign, let's see if we can find where she laid down. Let's see what we can find.
Yep. And then on one of our journeys back from a turning point, I hear Chip make a little noise, and I look over and he's signaling to me, and I thought he was meaning he had just seen an elk running through the woods, so I'm fumbling, trying to call to get it to stop. I call, he kind of looks at me and glares. I'm like, what? He comes over to me, makes me take a couple steps, and there the cow is, bedded down under some trees. I don't know what, 30 yards away maybe?
Maybe. Yeah. So I gave, you know, we used this hand signal for cow elk.
Yep.
So I did this and a stop, meaning that the elk was stopped.
Oh.
You know, this was, you know, moving. We had our hand signals. So I tried to, but it was a thick enough brush where it was hard to communicate even by hand signal.
We were far enough apart that I didn't even see the elk or some of his hand signals.
No, so he gives the call, and I'm going, what are you doing? Don't get her up from her bed and moving.
Yeah.
We just found her.
So,
Yeah, so when I come through the trees, as I'm looking through the trees, the stems of the trees, trunks, all I can see is the eye and maybe a little bit of the muzzle. But I'm picking up that eye, I'm going, oh. So I peek around, and sure enough, there's an elk bedded there. At that point, I didn't know if it was our elk or not. And I saying to myself, well, if I take a few more steps and she doesn't get up, there's a pretty good bet that it's the one we're looking for. So I took a few more steps, look over at the elk. Sure enough, she's got a dark spot where she had been hit. So she was waiting for us to show up because she needed help being done.
Yes.
Yeah, she was done, but she wasn't going anywhere. It was time. So from there, we were able to put another shot in her to finish her off and close the deal. And
then the high fives and the hugs began, and we could breathe a sigh of relief knowing that we didn't have an injured animal still out there, that we were able to finish it off, close the deal, and kind of close that chapter of the story.
Yeah, and just so thankful for the opportunity and the blessing of that elk and being able to have her. And tonight we had tenderloin for supper.
Yeah, that was delicious.
Thank you, elk. But then the work began.
Yeah, it kind of dawned on us.
The story doesn't end when the elk is down. It just doesn't.
Nope. Go up to it, and then you realize how big of an animal it is, and the amount of work that's going to have to go in to get this from the woods back to a trail or a vehicle or camp or however far you were going to get it.
Yeah. And a lot of things came together that helped us in this process and just worked out well. One of them is that she passed near a road. So it wasn't a long hike to hike the meat to the truck. We could get fairly close. And if we'd been hiking from where she was to camp, each trip was a half a mile. So we'd been making,
oh man, several miles in the dark by the time it would have been all done.
Yeah, we would have put on another 10 miles of hiking meat out.
Because it was almost 4 o'clock by the time the final shot went through and she was down. So there was still daylight, but we knew it was going to be a long enough road ahead of us.
Yeah, it was fading fast, and so it was good that, like you say, a lot of things came together and just worked out well.
Yep. We got back to camp, grabbed the last of our supplies, brought the truck up close, hiked back in. Chip set up some little reflective markers so that we could find our way out when it got dark, and set about trying to take care of an animal larger than any of us had either tackled before.
Yeah, for a couple of guys from the Midwest,
Mm-hmm.
used to shooting deer and,
Yep.
and other things, and on hunting deer, it just is
Drag it out. That's it.
yeah, gut it and drag it out. There was no dragging this
No.
beast. There was no moving this beast. So we
Uh-uh.
did the no gut method on her. We took and skinned the hide off one side and
Yep.
got the front quarter and the
Back quarter,
Back
took
quarter.
the back strap,
yep,
went in, got the tenderloin.
cleaned off the rib,
Mhm.
rib meat for grinding and all that stuff. Cleaned
Yeah.
her up. You know, that's part of it, is appreciating what the animal's giving to you
Uh-huh.
and making use of all of it.
Yep. We flipped her over and then repeated the process. And yeah, we hiked it all out in the dark. We had put a tarp down so we could set all the meat on it and then
Mhm.
bag it up and pack it out. And yeah, fortunately it was only, I don't know what, maybe 100 yards to the truck.
Yeah, yeah. So that was Friday. So
Yeah.
arrive on
Still opening
Wednesday,
day.
scout on Thursday, opening day on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So by the end of opening day on Friday, we were back at camp,
Mm-hmm.
meet in the truck by 8 something.
Yeah, about 8. It only took us about 2 hours. I thought we did really good.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, we celebrated, just enjoyed the moment, told some of the story and
Yeah.
smiled, and then got ready for a nice restful evening.
Yeah. Got rid of some of the anxiety, all the
Absolutely.
worry that went along with leading up to finding the animal was not finding the animal, and the worry and anxiety
Mhm.
around that, and what do we do?
Yeah.
And then being able to close the door on that and say, mission accomplished, we're done. Opening day, 2020 elk season,
We are
9/11.
tagged out.
We are tagged out.
Tagged out, meets at camp, and
Mhm.
it's not midnight
Yeah.
after having gotten up at 3 in the morning. So there was a
Yeah.
lot to be excited and appreciative for.
And today is 9/12.
Yep.
So
the
this
next day.
morning was bone the meat out,
Mm-hmm.
clean it up, get it ready for transport so that when we take it home, it's all
Ready to
boned,
go.
ready to go, and then we just have some trimming and grinding
Mhm.
and cutting steaks and roasts and that
Yep.
kind of thing when we get back.
And
And
we
we were-
did that pretty quick too. That was,
That was an hour.
yeah, and done.
Hour and done. We had it off the bone,
Mm-hmm.
ready to go. And then found a place in town that would put it in a freezer for us and hold it until we're ready to pick it up and transport it on our way. So a lot of things came together, that included being
Yeah.
able to freeze it and not having to worry about icing it all the time and running back and forth for ice to
Right.
keep it cold. Because we want to stay here for a little while longer.
Enjoy it a little bit more. I mean,
Thank you, Laura.
yeah, we'd like to hear some more bugles. We'd like to get some more pictures. Just experience whatever else is going to go around for us.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been great so far. We don't want it to end quite yet.
Nope. It's just great being here. It's great being outside. The air smells better. Granted, we're at 9,000 feet, so it takes a little more to catch our breath.
Yeah.
But and it's just a place where both of us can enjoy, be happy, relieve the stress, and
Yeah.
yeah, take it all in.
Yeah. It's a good time, a good hunt, good friends,
Mm-hmm.
you know, good results.
Yeah.
Everything came together, which, yeah. We have not experienced on
No.
the elk hunt before this,
No.
so this is great.
This is great, and lots of memories, lots of good times, and
Mhm.
yeah, we'll see what happens in the future.
So that's our story.
Mhm.
We're sticking to it.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, and maybe we'll bring you some more another time.